The air shimmered violently, distorting the rows of stolen plasma rifles and gravity grenades arranged haphazardly on the metal shelving. An ear-splitting crack resonated through the dimly lit depot, sending crates tumbling and scattering like startled birds. In that instant, a tear ripped through the fabric of space-time, disgorging chaos into the heart of the Black Market Arms Depot. Sergeant Lena Drace dove for cover behind a stack of pulse shields, her heart hammering in her chest. Her grip tightened around her blaster, the only familiar weight in the sudden maelstrom. She stole a glance over her shoulder, eyes widening as figures materialized from the swirling vortex. They stumbled out, clad in bronze armor, leather straps, and brandishing weapons that seemed more at home in a museum than the modern battlefield. Their eyes were wild, darting around the depot as they shouted in an archaic tongue that echoed with confusion and fury. Ancient warriors, ripped from their own time, now stood among the contraband of the future. Lena's radio crackled to life, her partner's voice a panicked hiss. "What the hell is that, Drace? Did the raid just get a new level of crazy?" "Looks like history decided to crash the party," Lena replied, her voice edged with grim determination. "Stay low, Jax. These guys are armed and confused." The warriors, perhaps a dozen in number, fanned out with the instinctual precision of seasoned soldiers, their archaic swords and spears contrasting starkly against the neon glow of futuristic weaponry. One of them, a towering figure with a plumed helmet, barked orders to the others, his words lost to the ages but his intent clear. Lena's mind raced. They were caught between an illegal arms depot and a group of time-displaced soldiers with nothing to lose. She needed a plan, and she needed it fast. Disentangling herself from the pile of shields, she activated her wristcom, sending a distress signal to the nearest Federation outpost. Reinforcements would take time, and time was a luxury they didn't have. She peeked over her cover, assessing the situation as the warriors ventured deeper into the depot. A sudden crash echoed from behind her, and Lena spun around, blaster raised. Jax had tripped over a crate, sending a cascade of grenades clattering across the floor. The noise drew the attention of the nearest warrior, who turned, eyes locking onto Lena's position with predatory intensity. Adrenaline surged through Lena's veins. She leapt from her hiding spot, rolling to her feet as the warrior charged. His sword swung in a deadly arc, slicing through the air where she had stood moments before. She fired her blaster, the shot going wide as the warrior ducked and weaved with surprising agility. "Drace, watch out!" Jax's warning came too late as another warrior closed in from her blind side, a spear thrusting forward with lethal intent. Lena twisted desperately, the spear grazing her side as she fired again. This time, her shot found its mark, the pulse of energy knocking the warrior off his feet. He crashed to the floor, armor clanging against the metal grating. Breathing hard, Lena looked around, assessing the rapidly changing battlefield. The warriors were adapting with unsettling speed, using their surroundings to their advantage. Jax was pinned down, trading shots with a pair of them who had taken cover behind a barricade of crates. "Jax, we can't hold them forever. We need to regroup," she shouted, inching her way toward him, using the shelves as cover. "Tell me something I don't know," Jax grunted, firing off another shot. "Got any bright ideas, or are we just waiting for the cavalry?" Lena's mind raced. The depot was a labyrinth of weaponry and illicit goods, a dangerous playground if they could use it right. She scanned the shelves, her eyes landing on a sleek, experimental weapon locked behind a transparent barrier. "Jax, see that over there?" She pointed, and he followed her gaze. "We get to that disruptor, we might just turn the tides." Jax nodded, understanding her plan. "Cover me, I'll make a run for it." Lena laid down suppressive fire, forcing the warriors to duck and cover as Jax sprinted toward the disruptor. He skidded to a halt, punching in the override code she'd given him. The barrier slid open with a hiss, revealing the weapon within. With a triumphant grin, Jax hefted the disruptor, its sleek form humming with barely contained energy. "Ready to see how this thing handles?" "Do it," Lena urged, keeping her blaster trained on the warriors. Jax fired the disruptor, a pulse of energy rippling outward. The air crackled as the wave rolled over the warriors, their movements faltering as the disruptor's destabilizing effect took hold. Lena seized the moment, advancing with Jax, their combined fire forcing the warriors to retreat. But the victory was short-lived. The plumed warrior, seemingly immune to the disruptor's effects, rallied his men with a guttural roar. He charged forward, his sword raised high, intent on cutting a path through to Lena and Jax. "Drace, watch out," Jax yelled, but Lena was already moving, her reflexes honed by years of combat. She dodged the warrior's initial strike, the blade slicing the air inches from her face. Her blaster spat furious energy, each shot a deadly bolt aimed with precision. The warrior staggered, armor smoking, but still he advanced, a relentless force of nature. Lena backed away, her heel catching on the edge of a crate. She stumbled, falling hard, her blaster slipping from her grasp. The warrior loomed over her, victory in his eyes, but before he could strike, a sharp whistle cut through the air. Jax, disruptor in one hand, hurled a grenade with the other. It exploded with a blinding flash, engulfing the warrior in a cloud of smoke and shrapnel. The force of the blast sent Lena sprawling, her ears ringing. When the smoke cleared, the plumed warrior lay motionless, his sword clattering to the ground beside him. The remaining warriors hesitated, their will faltering in the wake of their leader's fall. "Now, Jax, push them back," Lena shouted, scrambling to her feet. Together, they pressed the advantage, driving the warriors toward the still open rift. The air shimmered around the edges of the temporal anomaly, reality rippling like water disturbed by a stone. Lena's heart pounded as they approached the rift, the warriors falling back until only a few remained. One by one, they turned and fled into the swirling vortex, disappearing into the unknown. "Is that all of them?" Jax asked, his voice strained. Lena scanned the depot, the silence eerie after the chaos. "Looks like it, for now, at least." But as they stood before the rift, a new wave of uncertainty washed over them. The rift pulsed ominously, its energy unstable, threatening to tear open once more. "We need to seal it," Lena said, urgency in her voice. "Before something else comes through." Jax nodded, already moving to access the depot's control systems. His fingers flew over the console, entering commands in rapid succession. "I'm on it. Just keep an eye out for any nasty surprises." As Lena watched the rift, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something much larger than a mere incursion. The rift was a wound in time, and they were the only ones capable of stitching it shut before it bled more chaos into their world. Jax cursed, frustration etched on his face. "The system's not responding. It's like the rift's energy is interfering with the controls." Lena's mind raced, searching for a solution. "What about the disruptor? If we can amplify its effect, maybe we can destabilize the rift enough to close it." "It's a gamble," Jax warned, "but I don't see any other options." With no time to waste, they turned to the disruptor, adjusting its settings to maximum output. Lena took a deep breath, steadying herself as she aimed the weapon at the rift. "Here goes nothing," she muttered, pulling the trigger. The disruptor roared to life, unleashing a torrent of energy that collided with the rift in a dazzling display of light and sound. The depot trembled, the very air vibrating with the force of the impact. For a moment, it seemed as though the rift would hold, its edges flickering but refusing to yield. Then, with a final surge of power, the disruptor's energy overwhelmed the anomaly, collapsing it in on itself with a deafening implosion. The depot fell silent, the rift now nothing more than a lingering impression in the air. Lena and Jax stood side by side, breathing heavily as the reality of their victory settled over them. "Did we do it?" Jax asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Lena nodded, relief flooding through her. "For now, let's hope it stays that way." But even as the words left her lips, a new sound reached their ears, the distant rumble of engines growing louder by the second. Reinforcements, finally arriving, but too late to witness the battle that had unfolded. Lena exchanged a weary glance with Jax. "Looks like we're about to have a lot of explaining to do." As the figures of Federation soldiers appeared at the entrance, their expressions a mix of confusion and awe, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the rift had only been the beginning. In a universe where time itself was no longer a constant, anything was possible. And somewhere, sometime, the echoes of the battle they had just fought would reverberate, changing the course of history in ways they could only begin to imagine. Amid the shimmering lattice of the Dyson sphere, where the artificial sun bathed the heavens in a light that was both eternal and unyielding, the war zone twisted into an ever-expanding theater of chaos. The sphere's colossal panels, once silent sentinels of human ingenuity, were now contested territories, with the human forces desperately clinging to their footholds against the tide of alien aggression. Lieutenant Commander Alara Voss crouched behind the jagged remains of what had once been a sleek energy conduit, now reduced to a metallic carcass under the barrage of plasma fire. Her squad, the last remnant of the Alpha Strike Team, huddled close, eyes scanning the shadows for the telltale shimmer of an incoming assault. "Lieutenant, we're running low on charges," muttered Sergeant Dax, his voice a gravelly whisper over the comm link. His once pristine armor now bore the scars of countless skirmishes, each dent and scorch mark a testament to the relentless assault they faced. "Another push and we'll be down to sidearms," and harsh language. Alara's eyes flitted to the ammo counter on her visor display, the dwindling numbers a grim reminder of their precarious situation. "Save them for when they really count, Dax. We're going to need everything we have to punch through to the core nexus." The core nexus, the heart of the Dyson sphere, where the alien invaders had entrenched themselves, utilizing the vast energy reserves to fuel their war machine. If the humans could sever that artery, they would cut off the invaders' power supply and cripple their operations. A desperate plan, but desperation was all they had left. "Status on reinforcements?" she asked, her voice edged with the faint hope that command would have some good news. "Comms are still jammed," replied Specialist Haro, their tech expert, busy with a portable console, fingers flying over the interface. "They must be using the sphere's own systems against us. But I might have a workaround." Alara gave a nod, her expression a mask of determination. Haro's skills had pulled them through worse, and if anyone could punch a hole through the digital blockade, it was him. The ground trembled, a low rumble that rose into a crescendo as an explosion rocked the nearby sector. The aliens were closing in, their tactics swift and ruthless. Automated drones, sleek and deadly, flitted through the air like hunting falcons, their silhouettes a blur against the backdrop of the sphere's inner sky. "Incoming," shouted Private Jess, her voice taut with urgency as she opened fire, her rifle rattling in her grip. The squad pivoted, years of drilled training kicking in as they unloaded a hail of fire at the oncoming swarm. Amid the chaos, Alara's mind raced, dissecting the battlefield with tactical precision, her thoughts a flurry of potential outcomes and strategies. Her gaze swept over her squad, each member an invaluable part of their fragile survival. Dax, steadfast and unyielding. Haro, the quiet genius. Jess, sharp-eyed and unflinching. They were her family in this hell, and she would be damned if she let them fall here. "Push forward, we need to keep them off balance," Alara commanded, her voice slicing through the din like a blade. The squad moved as one, a phalanx of determination, pushing toward the nearest control hub where they could regroup and reassess. The skirmish was brutal, a dance of death as the humans wove through the latticework of the sphere, each step a calculated risk amid the barrage of enemy fire. Their adversaries, a coalition of alien species united under a singular, enigmatic leader, were relentless. Their motives were shrouded in mystery, but their intent was clear: total domination. As they breached the control hub, the squad fell into defensive positions, Haro immediately linking his console to the hub's systems. "I'm in," he announced, a hint of triumph in his voice. "Give me a minute to break through their encryption." "Make it 30 seconds, Alara replied, her eyes scanning the perimeter, the tension in her muscles coiled like a spring. The hub was a temporary sanctuary, but it would soon become a tomb if they lingered too long. On the periphery, the alien drones circled like vultures, their sleek forms occasionally darting in to test the humans' defenses. Each encounter was a brutal reminder of their foes' adaptability and cunning, the drones learning and evolving with each engagement. "Lieutenant," Jess called out, her voice a beacon amid the chaos. "We've got movement, something big." Alara felt her pulse quicken, her instincts screaming a warning. She turned just in time to see the massive form of an alien walker crest the horizon, its multi-jointed legs carrying it with unsettling grace. "They're heavy units already? We must have pissed them off," Dax grunted, bracing his rifle against the ridge of a shattered console. "Keep it busy, I've almost got what we need," Haro urged, his fingers a blur over the console's interface. The walker advanced, its cannons lighting up with an eerie glow as it prepared to unleash devastation. The squad opened fire, their shots sparking harmlessly against the walker's energy shields. Alara's mind raced, calculating angles and weaknesses, searching for any exploitable flaw. "Focus fire on the joints," she instructed, hoping to cripple its mobility. Her team adjusted, their barrage concentrated and precise. Sparks flew as rounds impacted the walker's legs, but its progress was relentless. Then, a breakthrough. Haro's console beeped triumphantly. I've got it. Comms are back online, and I've piggybacked into their network. We have a chance to disrupt their operations from here. Alara's heart surged with renewed hope. Patch me through to command. We need immediate support if we're going to take this thing down. As Haro relayed her request, Alara's focus returned to the battlefield. The walker loomed closer, its cannons priming for a devastating volley. There was no time to wait for reinforcements. They needed to act, and fast. Sergeant Dax, with me, she ordered, a plan forming in the crucible of necessity. Jess, Haro, hold this position. We're taking the fight to them. With a nod, Dax fell in beside her, the two breaking from cover and sprinting toward the walker. Plasma fire streaked overhead, each step a gamble with death. Alara's heart pounded in her chest, adrenaline sharpening her senses to a razor's edge. As they closed the distance, the walker loomed like a titan, its cannons swiveling with deadly intent. But Alara had spotted what she was looking for, a maintenance hatch on the walker's underside, a potential Achilles heel. Dax, cover me, she instructed, her voice steady despite the storm raging around them. Dax nodded, pivoting on his heel and unleashing a torrent of fire at the walker's sensors, drawing its attention. Alara dove beneath the monstrous machine, her hands finding purchase on the hatch's manual release. With a grunt of effort, she wrenched it open, revealing the tangle of circuitry and conduits within. Her knife was in her hand in a flash, severing wires and cutting off the walker's systems with surgical precision. The effect was instantaneous. The walker shuddered, its legs buckling as its power core sputtered and died. A triumphant shout erupted from her squad as the behemoth toppled, crashing to the ground in a cataclysm of metal and dust. Nice work, Lieutenant, Dax panted, rejoining her amid the wreckage. Command's sending reinforcements. We might actually make it out of this. Alara allowed herself a brief, triumphant smile, but it was short-lived. From the comms came Haro's voice, strained and urgent. Lieutenant, we've got a problem. The aliens. They're activating something big, deeper in the sphere. I'm detecting massive energy readings. Her heart sank as the implications hit her like a tidal wave. The enemy was escalating, their desperation mirroring humanity's own. And whatever they were unleashing, it promised to be catastrophic. All right, we regroup and push forward. We have to stop it, whatever it is, she declared, her resolve unshaken but the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. They moved out, the remnants of Alpha Strike Team threading through the labyrinth of the Dyson sphere, each step drawing them closer to the heart of the conflict. As they advanced, the sphere's environment grew increasingly unstable, power surges flickering through the superstructure like veins of lightning. The path to the core nexus was a gauntlet of fire and fury, the alien forces throwing everything they had to halt the human advance. But the squad pressed on, their determination steeled by the knowledge of what was at stake. Through the chaos, Alara found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The Dyson sphere, once a beacon of hope and progress, now a battleground for survival. The vision of a unified humanity now fractured by war, yet still fighting with all its might against the darkness that sought to consume it. Finally, they breached the final chamber, the core nexus sprawling before them. And there, at the center, stood the source of their dread, a colossal portal, its surface swirling with malevolent energy. The aliens were attempting to open a gateway, a conduit to bring forth reinforcements or worse, a weapon of unimaginable power. We have to shut it down, Alara shouted, rallying her squad as they took up positions. Haro, can you disrupt it? I'll try, but it's heavily shielded, came the response, Haro already interfacing with his equipment, racing against time. The chamber erupted into violence as the aliens launched a desperate defense, their forces bolstered by the presence of their leader, a towering figure, clad in ornate armor, its visage obscured by a mask of alien design. Alara charged forward, her squad at her heels, engaging the enemy with every ounce of strength and cunning they possessed. The battle was fierce, each second stretching into eternity as they fought to reach the portal. Haro worked feverishly, his fingers dancing over the console, his face a mask of concentration. The energy readings spiked, the portal fluctuating wildly as he fought to destabilize it. The alien leader surged forward, a blur of lethal grace as it engaged Alara. Their duel was a clash of titans, each strike a testament to their respective species' will to survive. The alien's skill was formidable, but Alara's determination was unbreakable. "Haro, now," she shouted, the urgency of the moment driving her beyond exhaustion. With a final, decisive keystroke, Haro breached the portal's defenses, triggering a cascade of energy that imploded the gateway in a blinding flash. The shockwave rippled through the sphere, shaking its very foundations. The alien leader staggered, its moment of distraction all Alara needed to land a decisive blow, her blade finding a chink in its armor. With a final, defiant roar, the alien fell, its body crumpling to the ground. As the dust settled, silence reclaimed the chamber, broken only by the labored breaths of the surviving humans. They had done it. Against all odds, they had stopped the threat. But their victory was bittersweet. The sphere's structure was failing, the energy backlash threatening to tear it apart. Alara knew they needed to evacuate, their fight far from over. "All units, fall back," she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of command. "We have to get out before this whole place goes up." As they retreated, the Dyson sphere shuddered ominously, the echoes of their battle reverberating through its halls. Behind them, the portal chamber collapsed, a monument to their struggle and resilience. Yet, even as they fled, Alara's mind was already planning the next move, her spirit unyielding in the face of adversity. The war was not over, but humanity was nothing if not resilient. They would fight on. The Dyson sphere, once a marvel of human ingenuity, now teetered on the brink of chaos. The time rift, a shimmering anomaly in the heart of the sphere, was no longer a mere curiosity. It had become a gateway through which ancient warriors, clad in armor from epochs long past, had marched into the future with a singular intent: conquest. Captain Alara Voss, the leader of the beleaguered human forces, surveyed the battlefield from her command post, a hastily constructed bunker reinforced with whatever materials they could scavenge. Her holographic display painted a grim picture. Ancient Roman legions, Viking raiders, and Mongol horsemen swarmed across the landscape, their numbers seemingly endless. The technological advantage humans once held was rapidly diminishing under the relentless onslaught. "Status report," Alara barked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, her second in command, met her gaze with a grim expression. "We're stretched thin, Captain. Our energy shields are failing faster than we can reinforce them. We've lost contact with Alpha and Delta squads, and the last drone reconnaissance shows several more rifts opening across the southern quadrant." Alara clenched her fists, her mind racing. "What about reinforcements? Any word from command?" Marcus shook his head. "Nothing. Communications are still spotty with the interference from the rifts. It's as if we're being deliberately cut off." Just then, a new alert flashed across the display. A squad of Roman centurions had breached the perimeter of one of their supply depots. Alara's jaw tightened. Every loss of supplies meant another blow to their already dwindling resources. "Get me Lieutenant Rios," Alara ordered. "We need to retake that depot before those supplies are lost." Marcus nodded, his fingers dancing over the control panel. "Rios, do you copy?" Static crackled before a voice came through, strained but audible. "Rios here. We're moving to intercept, but these soldiers, they're unlike anything we've trained for. They fight like they have nothing to lose." "Pull back if you have to," Alara replied. "We can't afford to lose any more men." As the connection ended, Alara leaned back, rubbing her temples. She couldn't help but wonder if they were fighting a losing battle. The ancient warriors were relentless, driven by a singular purpose that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Helena Kincaid, the leading scientist studying the time rift phenomenon. Helena's lab coat was stained with soot and her hair was disheveled, but her eyes burned with determination. "Alara, I think I might have found something," Helena said, her voice a mix of excitement and urgency. Alara turned to her, hopeful but wary. "Please, tell me it's good news." Helena took a deep breath. "The rifts are not random. They're being controlled. Or at least influenced. I've detected patterns in the energy signatures, almost like a beacon or a signal." Marcus interjected. "You mean someone, or something, is actively manipulating them?" Helena nodded. "Exactly. If we can locate the source, we might be able to disrupt it, or even shut it down." Alara's mind churned with possibilities. But who would have the capability to do something like this? Helena hesitated, glancing at Marcus before speaking. It's possible that someone from our time, or the future, has found a way to use the rifts for their own purposes. The implications were staggering. If true, it meant their enemy wasn't just the ancient warriors, but also a hidden adversary with knowledge of both the past and future. We need to find that source, Alara decided. Marcus, get a team ready. Helena, you'll go with them. Whatever it takes, we need answers. As Marcus moved to assemble the team, Helena lingered, her expression troubled. Alara, there's something else. If we disrupt the rifts improperly, it could cause a catastrophic feedback loop. The entire Dyson sphere could collapse. Alara's heart sank. So, it's a gamble. A big one, Helena confirmed. Despite the dire circumstances, Alara felt a flicker of hope. Humans had always thrived on taking risks, pushing the boundaries of the possible. But this was different. This was survival. Hours later, Marcus and the team, including Helena, were ready to embark on their mission. Alara watched them from the command post, feeling the weight of each decision pressing on her shoulders. "You think they can do it?" asked Sergeant Ray Harlow, a grizzled veteran who had seen his share of battles. "They have to," Alara replied. "It's our only chance." Ray nodded, his gaze fixed on the departing team. "I hope they find what they're looking for. The men are getting restless. Morale's low." Alara sighed, understanding the unspoken plea in his words. "We need a win, Ray. For all of us." As the team disappeared into the distance, the sounds of battle intensified. The ancient warriors, undeterred by the passage of time, fought with a fervor that bordered on fanaticism. Alara couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something, a crucial piece of the puzzle. In the midst of the chaos, she found herself thinking of her brother, Alex, who had been on a diplomatic mission when the rifts first appeared. She hadn't heard from him since, but she held on to the hope that he was safe, somewhere out there, fighting his own battles. The hours dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. Alara's eyes flicked to the dwindling supply of rations and ammunition, the tension in the air palpable. Every soldier knew what was at stake, and yet the sense of impending doom was inescapable. Back at the battlefront, Lieutenant Rios was barely holding the line. The ancient warriors pressed forward with an intensity that threatened to break through the human defenses at any moment. Rios, a former history professor turned soldier, couldn't help but marvel at the precision and discipline of the Roman formations, even as they battered against his troops. "Fall back to the second line," Rios ordered, knowing it was only a temporary reprieve. As his men scrambled to regroup, he felt a pang of desperation. They were outmatched, outnumbered, and outgunned. The ancient warriors had adapted to modern warfare with alarming speed, their tactics evolving with each skirmish. In the midst of the chaos, Rios spotted a figure moving with purpose through the ranks of Roman soldiers. It was a woman, her features obscured by a cloak. She seemed to command the respect of the warriors around her, her presence a beacon of authority. Rios's eyes narrowed as he watched her. Could she be connected to the control of the rifts? The thought propelled him forward, determination blazing through his fatigue. "Cover me," he shouted, breaking from his position and charging toward the mysterious figure. His heart pounded as he dodged arrows and clashed with warriors, his focus unyielding. But just as Rios reached the woman, she turned, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of surprise and amusement. "You seek answers, but can you handle the truth?" she asked, her voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. Before Rios could respond, she raised her hand, and a blinding light enveloped him. The last thing he saw was her enigmatic smile before everything went dark. Back at the command post, Alara felt a sudden surge of unease. Something had shifted, a change in the air that she couldn't quite place. As if sensing her thoughts, Marcus's voice crackled through the comms. "Captain, we've located the source," he reported, his voice tense. It's not what we expected." Alara's heart leapt. "What do you mean?" "It's not a machine or a device. It's a person." The revelation hit Alara like a physical blow. "How is that possible?" "We're still trying to figure it out, but there's no doubt. She's controlling the rifts, leading the warriors." Alara's mind raced with implications. A person with the power to manipulate time, to command armies from the past, was more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. "Can you stop her?" Alara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We're working on it," Marcus replied, determination lacing his words. "But she's not alone. There's something else. Something powerful protecting her." Alara's grip tightened around the edge of the console. The odds were stacked against them, and the path to victory seemed fraught with peril. Yet, in that moment of despair, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. Humans had faced impossible odds before, had risen from the brink with sheer tenacity and grit. They were not just fighting for survival, but for the future, for the hope of a tomorrow where they could rebuild and reclaim what had been lost. With renewed determination, Alara turned to Ray. "Prepare the troops. We hold the line, no matter what." As the final preparations were made, Alara's thoughts drifted to her brother once more. She hoped he was safe, that he would understand why she had to make these choices. Family was everything, and she would fight to ensure they had a world to come back to. The battle raged on, but within the chaos, a spark of hope flickered. Humans had always defied the odds, and this time would be no different. They would endure, they would fight, and they would prevail, against time, against history, against all odds. The story of humanity was not over. Not yet. The Dyson sphere loomed like an infinite labyrinth of technological marvels and alien enigma, its surface glistening with the light of a captured star. Within its colossal embrace, humanity fought for survival, torn between desperation and determination. Captain Alara Quinn stood at the helm of the battered starship Valkyrie *, her mind racing with strategies that bordered on the impossible. The air inside the bridge was thick with tension as the crew struggled against the latest onslaught of the Svari, an insectoid race that thrived in the labyrinthine corridors of the Dyson sphere. Their agility and familiarity with the environment gave them a distinct advantage, their attacks coordinated and relentless. "Shields at 30%, Captain," shouted Lieutenant Bryce, his voice strained as he adjusted the flickering shield console. Sparks flew as another blast hit the hull, the ship groaning under the pressure. "Divert all available power to maneuvering thrusters," Alara commanded, her hands steady on the controls. "We're not here to win a firefight. We need to outthink them." As the ship veered sharply, skimming the inner surface of the sphere, Alara's mind was a storm of potential outcomes and calculated risks. But even her quick thinking couldn't stop the reality that they were cornered. The Svari ships buzzed around them like hornets, their collective hum a harbinger of doom. "Captain, they're deploying disruptor drones," called out Ensign Tessa, her eyes wide with fear. "Our targeting systems are starting to glitch." Alara cursed under her breath. The drones were designed to scramble electronic systems, and with their shields already compromised, they couldn't afford to lose targeting capabilities. She needed an idea, something that would level the playing field, even if only for a brief window. "Patch me into the engineering bay," Alara ordered, her mind already racing towards a solution that was more desperation than inspiration. "Chief Engineer Zhao, we need a countermeasure." Zhao's voice crackled over the comms, calm despite the chaos. "I can rig an EMP burst by overloading the secondary conduits, Captain. It'll knock out their drones, but it'll leave us vulnerable for a few seconds. Seconds that could spell the difference between survival and annihilation." Alara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Do it. Initiate on my mark." With the Valkyrie dancing precariously between the beams of alien weaponry, the crew braced themselves. Alara's grip tightened on the controls, her eyes locked on the enemy ships, waiting for the perfect moment. "Mark." A pulse radiated from the Valkyrie *, a wave of electromagnetic energy that swept through the immediate area. The Svari drones flickered and went dark, spiraling uselessly into the void. In that brief interlude, Alara seized the opportunity, guiding the ship through a narrow gap between two colossal structures within the sphere. The respite was short-lived. Though the drones were momentarily disabled, the Svari ships regrouped, their formation tightening like a noose around the human vessel. "We can't keep this up, Captain," Bryce warned, sweat beading on his brow. "Even with that maneuver, we're running out of space and time." "I know," Alara replied, her voice edged with frustration. They needed a new plan, something unexpected, something only a human would dare. A thought sparked in her mind, a reckless idea that bordered on insanity. "Prepare to initiate a controlled breach of the sphere wall," she commanded. The bridge fell silent, the crew exchanging worried glances. "Captain, the structural integrity won't matter if we're dead," Alara interrupted. "We breach, we create a path, and we slip through. It's our only shot." With no time to debate, the crew scrambled to modify the ship's weaponry, directing everything they had at a single point on the sphere's wall. The ship shuddered under the strain, but determination gave strength to their resolve. The first shot rang out, then another, each one carving a path through the composite materials of the sphere. The Svari pursued, undeterred, their ships closing in like predators smelling blood. Almost there, Alara murmured, her eyes focused on the growing fissure. Just a little more, and then, with a deafening crack, the breach was complete. The Valkyrie surged forward, propelled by a mix of hope and adrenaline, bursting through the fractured wall into the unknown. For a moment, they floated in the abyss, the vastness of space stretching around them. But the Svari weren't far behind, their persistence a testament to their relentless nature. "Captain, scanners are picking up a massive energy signature," Tessa reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. It could be another part of the sphere's defensive network. Alara felt the weight of their predicament settle over her, heavier than gravity. Each move they made seemed to lead them deeper into danger, and now, they were faced with the possibility of another formidable challenge. But humans had a knack for turning desperation into ingenuity. "Bryce, reroute our navigation systems to interface with the sphere's energy network," Alara instructed, inspiration flickering in her eyes. "If we can't outrun them, maybe we can outsmart them by using the sphere's own systems against them." As Bryce worked frantically at his console, the Svari ships grew closer, their weapons primed. The energy signature loomed ominously on the forward screen, its purpose unclear, but its potential undeniable. Connection established, Bryce confirmed, his voice a mixture of relief and uncertainty. Alara gripped the edge of her console, her mind racing through possibilities. Is there any way we can utilize that energy signature to create a diversion, something to throw the Svari off our trail? Bryce's fingers danced over the controls, his mind catching onto the thread of Alara's thought. If we reroute power from non-essential systems, we might be able to trigger a feedback loop. It could create an energy surge, something big enough to disrupt their formation. It was a gamble, one that bordered on the absurd, but absurdity had often been humanity's ally. With the Svari ships closing in like a tightening net, Alara gave the order, her voice steady amidst the storm. "Do it." The ship's systems groaned under the strain as energy was diverted, the feedback loop building to a crescendo. The Svari, sensing the shift, accelerated their approach, their intent clear. Just as Alara's heart reached the breaking point of tension, the feedback loop detonated, a cascade of energy rippling outward. The Svari formation faltered, scattered by the unexpected surge. The Valkyries slipped through the chaos, a lone ship defying the odds. But the victory was bittersweet. The maneuver had bought them time, but it had also left them vulnerable, their systems fried from the overload. The ship limped through the void, a fragile fortress against the vastness of space. "Damage report," Alara requested, her voice weary but resilient. "Primary systems are offline," Bryce replied, his tone grim. "We've got minimal propulsion and life support. Weapons are down." The bridge fell silent, each crew member grappling with the reality of their situation. They were adrift, their options dwindling, and the Svari would soon regroup. It was then that Alara saw it, a glimmer on the horizon, a structure jutting from the sphere's surface, different from the rest. It was ancient, its design unfamiliar, yet it called to her instincts, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. "Set a course for that structure," Alara instructed, her decision made with the certainty of someone who had nothing left to lose. As the Valkyrie limped toward the unknown, Alara felt the weight of her crew's lives heavy upon her shoulders. But within that weight was also the spark of human tenacity, the flicker of possibility that had carried them this far. The Svari would come, relentless as ever, but they would find humanity waiting, adaptable and defiant, ready to face whatever the sphere had in store. In their darkest moment, hope was a fragile, flickering thing, but it was also a force that could not be extinguished. Not here, not now. And as the Valkyrie neared the ancient structure, Alara knew that whatever lay ahead, they would meet it with the full measure of human spirit, unpredictable, indefatigable, unyielding. The hull of the USS Resolute groaned under the relentless barrage of enemy fire. Flames flickered along the ship's corridors, casting twisted shadows that danced like ghosts over the faces of the surviving crew. The once proud vessel, now pockmarked and hemorrhaging oxygen, drifted perilously close to the edge of the Dyson sphere's gravity well. Around it, A constellation of debris bore silent witness to the ferocity of the battle, shattered ships, fragments of armor, and the glinting remains of shattered dreams. In the command center, Captain Alara Voss stood resolute, her expression carved from iron. Her eyes, sharp as flint, scanned the holographic display detailing the dire situation. The Dyson sphere loomed large, a technicolor nightmare of interlocking panels and blinding luminescence that had become their battleground. The alien coalition, vast and relentless, had pressed the human fleet into an ever-tightening noose. "Captain," rasped Lieutenant Marcus, struggling to keep the fear from his voice, "we've lost contact with the forward fleet. The enemy's flanking us on all sides. Reinforcements are unlikely." Alara clenched her jaw. The situation was dire, but surrender was not an option. "Patch me through to all remaining ships," she ordered, her voice a clarion call amid the chaos. A series of crackling acknowledgments followed. Alara paused, drawing strength from the silent determination etched into the faces of her crew. This was their darkest hour, but humanity had always thrived when backed against a wall. "All ships, this is Captain Voss. We stand on the precipice of oblivion, but remember this. We are not just fighting for survival. We fight for our home, our families, for every breath taken in defiance of an unjust fate. We are human, and we do not yield. Use every ounce of ingenuity, every fiber of your spirit. We will turn this tide." As if to punctuate her resolve, a tremor rocked the ship, and the lights flickered ominously. The alien coalition, confident in their victory, had begun to tighten their grip. "Captain, the main engines are failing," reported Marcus, the grimness in his voice mirrored by the pallor of his skin. Alara nodded, her mind racing. Even now, with the specter of defeat looming, the seeds of defiance stirred within her. "Engineering," she spoke into her calm. "I need options, a diversion, a miracle, anything." Down in the bowels of the ship, Chief Engineer Samir Patel was already at work. Sweat beaded his brow as he surveyed the flickering controls. "Captain, we can reroute auxiliary power to the gravimetric stabilizers. It might just give us enough punch to slip past their perimeter and regroup." "Do it," Alara commanded, her voice a lifeline in the encroaching darkness. As Patel and his team fought to implement the plan, the alien fleet continued their inexorable advance. The coalition's flagship, a behemoth of otherworldly design, drifted into view. Its commander, a seasoned general whose arrogance had grown in tandem with his conquests, watched the humans struggle with predatory satisfaction. "They're cornered," the general mused, his voice resonating through the command chamber. "Prepare to deliver the final blow. Let this day mark the end of their defiance." On the Resolute, Patel's team worked with desperate efficiency. Sparks flew as circuits were rerouted, and the ship's systems groaned under the strain of the last-ditch effort. The crew held their collective breath, each heartbeat echoing with the weight of impending doom. Finally, with a triumphant shout, Patel activated the impromptu stabilizer boost. The ship shuddered violently, then surged forward with a burst of unexpected speed. Alara felt the momentum shift, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "All ships, engage evasive maneuvers," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos like a dagger. "Break their formation. We've got one shot at this." The remnants of the human fleet responded with precision born of desperation. Ships darted through the enemy lines, weaving between the deadly arcs of energy weapons. The Dyson sphere's surface became a backdrop for a deadly ballet of light and darkness. The alien general watched, a frown creasing his brow as he witnessed the humans' audacious maneuver. "Increase firepower. Do not let them escape," he barked, his confidence momentarily shaken by the unexpected resilience of his prey. The battle raged on, the humans' determination pitted against the overwhelming might of their foes. Alara's voice guided her crew through the inferno, her presence a beacon of hope amid the swirling chaos. Then, as if in response to her unyielding spirit, the USS Resolute breached the enemy lines, the Dyson sphere's gravity well propelling it into the relative safety of interstellar space. Other human ships followed, their battered hulls testament to the ferocity of their struggle. Alara allowed herself a small smile, a flicker of triumph in the face of adversity. They had survived, but the battle was far from over. The coalition would regroup, and the humans would need every ounce of their ingenuity to turn the tide. "Captain," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder and determination, "we did it. We broke through." For now, Alara replied, her mind already working on their next move. But this is just the beginning. We need to rally the fleet, find allies, and strike back. As the USS Resolute sailed through the void, its crew took a moment to breathe, to savor the taste of survival. Yet, even in this darkest hour, they knew that the fight was far from over. Humanity's determination, their refusal to yield, would be the spark that kindled their resurgence. In the command center of the alien flagship, the general simmered with disbelief and fury. His prey had slipped through his fingers, their audacity both maddening and intriguing. How? He muttered, his eyes narrowing as he replayed the humans' maneuver in his mind. How did they do it? One of his advisors, a creature with skin like molten silver, spoke up hesitantly. Perhaps we underestimated them, General. Their tenacity, it's unlike anything we've encountered. Tenacity? The general spat the word as if it were a curse. Foolishness more like. But no matter. They will not escape me again. Prepare the fleet for pursuit. We will crush them before they can regroup. But even as he issued his orders, the seed of doubt had been planted. The humans' unexpected escape had shaken the coalition's confidence, a crack appearing in the facade of invincibility they had cultivated. Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Alara and her crew began to regroup, their minds racing with the possibilities. They had faced overwhelming odds and survived, but now they needed a plan, a way to turn their temporary reprieve into a lasting advantage. Marcus, Alara said, her mind buzzing with ideas, get me a link with the other captains. We need to strategize, find a way to outmaneuver them. As the communication channels crackled to life, Alara listened to the voices of her fellow captains, each one a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. They were bruised but unbroken, ready to fight for every inch of space, every breath of freedom. Together, they began to weave their plans, drawing on the depth of human ingenuity and the strength of their collective will. They would not go quietly into the night, not while there was still hope, still a chance to reclaim their future. As the meeting concluded, Alara gazed out at the stars, her heart filled with a fierce determination. The antagonists might have the upper hand, but they had underestimated the one thing that had always set humans apart: their unyielding spirit, their refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. The darkness of their situation was profound, but a glimmer of light remained. It was a light born of hope, of defiance, and it would guide them through the storm. We'll make them regret ever thinking we were easy prey, Alara vowed, her voice a quiet promise to her crew, to her people, to herself. Back aboard the alien flagship, the general brooded, his anger simmering beneath a veneer of calm. The humans' escape was a blemish on his record, a reminder that victory was never assured, even against a seemingly inferior foe. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the Dyson sphere. This is not over, he whispered to himself, his voice a low growl. They will return, and when they do, we'll be ready. Yet, deep within his mind, a seed of doubt had been sown, a gnawing uncertainty that whispered of the humans' unpredictable nature, of their capacity for survival against all odds. And it was this doubt, this fracture in the coalition's resolve, that would become the catalyst for humanity's resurgence. In the heart of darkness, the seeds of change had been planted, waiting to bloom in the light of a new dawn. In the silence of space, the Resolute and its fleet sailed on, buoyed by their shared resolve. They would fight, they would endure, and they would rise again. For this was humanity's legacy, a legacy forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by the strength of their indomitable spirit. And so, with the universe hanging in the balance, the stage was set for the next chapter in the ongoing saga. A chapter that would see the tide turn, as the embers of defiance sparked into a blazing inferno. The darkest hour was upon them, but the dawn was coming, and with it, a chance to reclaim their destiny. The Dyson sphere loomed as an ominous shell in the void, a relic of an ancient civilization now turned battleground. It was built to harness the energy of a star, but its creators had long vanished, leaving only the construct and the mysteries it held. For years, it had become the nexus of interstellar conflict, a prize sought after by the galaxy's mightiest races. The human fleet, though considered one of the lesser powers, had dared to enter this contest. It was a decision met with scoffs and dismissive laughter by the galaxy's superpowers. Yet, as the fleet drifted silently through the dark, the humans began to reveal the depths of their resolve. Captain Ella Markov stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the sphere's sector they had been assigned to protect. Tense murmurs filled the air, the crew bracing for the inevitable clash against the Thalaxians, a reptilian race renowned for their brute strength and advanced technology. The alien armada approached with confidence, their ships gleaming with weapons bristling like quills of a monstrous beast. "Captain, they're moving into an attack formation," reported Lieutenant Javier, tapping his console. "They're not wasting any time." Ella nodded, her eyes narrowing. "Ready the defense grid. All hands, brace for impact." The Thalaxians struck without preamble, a storm of plasma bolts and railgun slugs slashing through the void. The Resolute shuddered under the assault, but the sleek vessel held its ground, absorbing the onslaught with shields that flickered like northern lights. "Return fire," Ella commanded. The human ships responded with a barrage of their own, cannons thundering in a relentless rhythm. Yet it was clear, the Thalaxians had the upper hand in raw firepower. Ella knew this engagement was not to be won by force alone. It was time to unveil the ace up her sleeve. "Activate Project Obsidian," she ordered, her voice steady, betraying no hint of the gamble she was about to play. Beneath the hull of the Resolute, hidden compartments opened, releasing a swarm of drones, each carrying a payload of experimental nanite clusters. The Thalaxians had heard whispers of humanity's peculiar technological pursuits but had dismissed them as trifles, unworthy of serious consideration. They were about to discover the error of their ways. The nanites dispersed into a shimmering cloud, weaving through the Thalaxian ships like a ghostly mist. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, as the Thalaxians continued their assault, their systems began to falter. Displays flickered, engines sputtered, and weapons misfired. Confusion spread through their ranks like wildfire. One by one, the Thalaxian vessels fell silent, their once mighty forms now adrift, ensnared by the invisible tendrils of the nanites. The alien commander watched, disbelief etched across his features, as his fleet was brought to its knees by what appeared to be human magic. "Impossible," he growled, slamming a fist against his console. "What trickery is this?" A transmission crackled through the Thalaxian command channel, Ella's voice cutting through with calm authority. "It's called adaptation, something you seem to have overlooked." Meanwhile, aboard the human ship Ad Astra, Chief Engineer Tarek was orchestrating a different kind of miracle. While the Thalaxians struggled against the nanite assault, Tarek and his team worked tirelessly to reconfigure the Dyson sphere's ancient power conduits. The humans had discovered that the sphere's energy matrices could be manipulated, redirected to fuel their own ships, giving them a temporary but decisive edge. "Almost there," Tarek muttered, his fingers dancing over the controls with a dancer's precision. "Just a little more juice." His console beeped in confirmation, and the ship's engines roared to life, imbued with the primal energy of the star itself. The Ad Astra surged forward, its weapons now glowing with an ethereal light. The tide of battle was turning, the humans pressing their advantage with a ferocity that belied their underdog status. On the bridge of the Thalaxian flagship, the alien commander watched in mounting horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. It was a nightmare he hadn't imagined possible, a testament to his underestimation of human tenacity. "We must retreat," his second-in-command urged, his voice trembling with uncharacteristic fear. "We cannot withstand this." "No," the commander hissed, though his resolve was wavering. "We cannot let them." But before he could finish, the humans struck again, this time with a coordinated assault that shattered the flagship's defenses. It was a brutal, calculated blow, delivered with precision that left no room for rebuttal. As the flagship buckled under the assault, the commander finally conceded. "Withdraw. All ships, fall back." The order spread through the remaining Thalaxian ships, and with grim faces, they began their retreat. The humans, having achieved the impossible, did not pursue. Their victory was not just in the battle won, but in the realization that they were a force to be reckoned with. Ella watched the retreat on the display, a flicker of satisfaction crossing her features before she turned to her crew. "Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. We've shown them what we're capable of, but there's more to come." The crew broke into cheers, the tension giving way to a jubilant camaraderie. For the first time, they truly believed in the possibility of victory. As the humans regrouped, their minds already turning to the next challenge, the Thalaxians licked their wounds, plotting their revenge. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. The humans, they realized, were not to be underestimated. They had faced the lions and emerged bloodied but unbowed. On the fringes of the sphere, other fleets watched with renewed interest. The humans had made their mark, drawing the attention of allies and enemies alike. As the galaxy held its breath, the stage was set for the next act in this cosmic drama. In the heart of the Dyson sphere, where ancient mechanisms thrummed with dormant power, an unseen force stirred. The battles had awakened something long forgotten, and its presence was felt by those attuned to the whispers of the universe. The humans, in their defiance and ingenuity, had set into motion events that would change the very fabric of the galaxy. Back on the Resolute, Ella retired to her quarters, the weight of command settling on her shoulders. She sat down, allowing herself a moment of reflection. Their success was a testament to human determination, but it was also a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The Dyson sphere was a prize worth fighting for, but it was also a crucible, testing the mettle of all who sought its secrets. As she gazed out at the vastness of space, Ella's thoughts drifted to the future. The humans had survived this trial, but the war was far from over. They had secured a foothold in the Dyson sphere, but their journey was just beginning. The galaxy was watching, and the next move was theirs to make. In the quiet of the ship, Ella felt a sense of resolve. They would fight on, not just for survival, but to prove that humanity was capable of shaping its own destiny. The universe was vast and unforgiving, but the humans had shown that they would not be cowed. They would face whatever came next with courage and ingenuity, their spirit unbroken. As the stars glittered beyond the viewports, Ella smiled to herself. The galaxy might have underestimated them once, but they would not make that mistake again. The humans were here, and they were here to stay. In the cold, omnipotent heart of the Dyson sphere warzone, where the simulacrum of stars cast a false daylight across the eternal battlefield, the air shimmered with the charge of impending confrontation. The massive scale of the conflict unfolded like a celestial opera, with spaceships darting and weaving like cosmic dancers through the void. The alien invaders, the Catharn, a species bred for conquest, had underestimated humanity from the beginning, and it was now, at this confluence of fate, that they would come to realize the magnitude of their error. Captain Sarah Dempsey stood on the bridge of the UNS Valkyrie, her eyes scanning the holographic display that dominated the control room. The Dyson sphere curved around them in a perfect megastructure that harnessed the power of a star, a technological marvel that had once belonged to an ancient race, now the stage for humanity's most desperate stand. The Catharn had claimed it as their own, and their hubris blinded them to the ferocity of the human spirit. "Commander, report." Dempsey's voice cut through the tension, a knife through thin air. Her crew, a mix of the finest humanity had to offer, responded with the kind of precision that years of training had honed. "The Catharn fleet is regrouping, Captain," replied Lieutenant Hiro Tanaka, his fingers dancing over the console. "They've concentrated their forces on the sphere's equatorial plane. They think we've depleted our resources." "Let them think what they will," Dempsey replied, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. "We've got one last surprise for them." Across the Dyson sphere, the Catharn commander, Lord Vrax, observed the human fleet with an air of detached arrogance. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, each battle a testament to their superiority. Yet these humans had proven tenacious, like a virus that refused to be eradicated. As his eyes narrowed at the display of the human fleet, a flicker of doubt wormed its way into his consciousness. "Commence the final assault," Vrax ordered, his voice a low rumble that echoed through the command chamber. "End this charade." Back on the Valkyrie, Dempsey turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Miriam Chen. "Activate the resonance cascade. It's time to show them what we're made of." Chen nodded, her fingers flying across her console. "Initiating resonance cascade, now." The Dyson sphere, dormant for eons, suddenly roared to life. The structure's inner mechanisms, long silent, began to hum with a growing vibration. The entire battlefield felt the shift as the ancient technology responded to the human touch, an impossibility made real through sheer ingenuity. Energy surged through the lattice of the sphere, a symphony of power that resonated with the human fleet. Vrax's eyes widened as the unexpected unfolded before him. The human ships, once beleaguered and outmatched, now moved with a purpose and coordination that defied logic. The Dyson sphere, a tool of subjugation in his mind, had turned into a weapon of liberation. "Impossible," he muttered, disbelief etched into every syllable. How could they? Dempsey's voice crackled across the void, a declaration of defiance that echoed through the Catharan ranks. You thought we were beaten, but you never understood us. We adapt, we innovate, and now, we take back what's ours. The human fleet surged forward, their ships aglow with the borrowed energy of the Dyson sphere. Shields strengthened by magnitudes, weapons enhanced with stellar power, they cut through the Catharan lines with the precision of surgeons. The alien ships buckled under the assault, their defenses crumbling in the face of this unexpected onslaught. Vrax watched in horror as the tide of battle turned. His fleet, once the hammer of his empire, now splintered like glass under the relentless waves of human defiance. He barked orders, desperation tainting his commands, but it was too late. The humans had seized the momentum, and they wielded it with the fury of a species fighting for its future. On the Valkyrie, Dempsey orchestrated the battle with the focus of a maestro conducting an orchestra. Coordinate with the squadron leaders, give them targets. Let's drive them out of our sky. Amidst the chaos, the human pilots, each a testament to skill and courage, executed maneuvers of breathtaking audacity. Lieutenant James Jester Callahan led his wing through a series of impossible turns, his fighter weaving between enemy fire with an artistry that bordered on the supernatural. Stick with me, folks, he called to his squadron. Let's show them what humans are made of. The Catharan, disoriented and overwhelmed, struggled to regain control, but the humans pressed the advantage. Aboard the Valkyrie, Tanaka and Shen worked in tandem, orchestrating electronic warfare that blinded enemy sensors and sowed confusion among their ranks. Captain, we're getting reports of mass desertions among the Catharan forces, Tanaka informed. They're losing cohesion. Good, Dempsey replied, her voice steely with resolve. Let's make sure they never forget this day. As the battle raged, the Dyson sphere's energy pulsed in harmony with the human fleet, a testament to the audacity of a species that dared to dream beyond its reach. The Catharan, for all their might and technology, could not comprehend the depth of human tenacity, the spirit that refused to be conquered. Vrax, watching his fleet disintegrate, finally understood the fatal flaw in his calculations. He had seen humanity as a mere nuisance, a species barely worthy of notice. He had never anticipated this, a force that transcended mere survival, driven by the boundless hunger for freedom and self-determination. In the heart of the sphere, the final act played out. The human fleet, emboldened by their newfound power, drove the Catharan to the precipice of defeat. And as the Valkyrie bore down on the enemy flagship, Vrax faced the unthinkable, the realization that his empire had been bested by the most improbable of foes. Captain, Chen shouted, her voice filled with triumph. We've breached their flagship's defenses. Prepare for boarding, Dempsey commanded, her eyes fixed on the target. It's time to end this. The assault team, clad in exosuits that gleamed with the borrowed light of the Dyson sphere, launched from the Valkyrie, streaking toward the enemy ship like avenging angels. As they breached the hull, a fierce firefight erupted, the final test of wills in this cosmic struggle. Vrax, cornered and defiant, rallied his remaining forces for a last stand. The corridors of the flagship echoed with the clash of weapons and the cries of warriors on both sides. But the humans pressed forward, inexorable as the tide. In the end, it was Dempsey herself who faced Vrax in the command center, the culmination of the conflict distilled into this moment. The two leaders, avatars of their respective species, met in a silent contest of resolve. You fought well, human, Vrax conceded, his voice tinged with a grudging respect. But this is not over. Oh, it is, Dempsey replied, her gaze unwavering. You've underestimated us for the last time. With a final, decisive strike, she ended the conflict, a blow that resonated through the sphere and beyond. The Catharan fleet, leaderless and broken, retreated into the void, the shadow of their empire receding from human space. As the dust settled, the human fleet regrouped, their victory hard-won and absolute. The Dyson sphere, now free from the grip of tyranny, stood as a monument to human ingenuity and resilience. Across the battleground, the message was clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Dempsey stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, her eyes scanning the horizon where the remnants of the Catharan fleet disappeared into the stars. Her crew, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, shared in the triumph, their faces alight with the glow of victory. We did it, Tanaka breathed, his voice filled with awe. We did, Dempsey agreed, a smile breaking through her stoic demeanor. But remember, this isn't just a victory for us. It's a message to anyone who thinks they can chain humanity. We won't be shackled. We won't be silenced. The Dyson sphere, a testament to the dreams and ambitions of an ancient race, now lay in the hands of humanity. It was a new dawn, a new chapter in the annals of a species that refused to be defined by its limits. As the sun rose over the artificial horizon, the human fleet began the journey home, their hearts a little fuller, their gaze firmly set on the stars. For in this victory, they had not only reclaimed their freedom, but they had also ignited a beacon of hope, a promise that humanity would reach for the cosmos, undeterred and unstoppable. And in the quiet aftermath, as the Valkyrie sailed through the infinite expanse, Captain Sarah Dempsey knew that this was only the beginning. A future unbound by the shackles of the past awaited them, a universe of possibilities forged by the indomitable will of humankind. The Catharan had misjudged them, but they would not be the last. And as long as there were stars to reach, humanity would rise, relentless and unyielding, forever driven by the dream of a brighter tomorrow. The battle was over, and the remnants of the Dyson sphere hung in space like the torn pages of an ancient tome, each fragment telling a silent story of destruction and rebirth. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the price was visible in the debris field surrounding Earth, an ethereal graveyard marking both our triumph and our loss. Captain Adrian Voss, leader of the Earth Coalition fleet, stood on the bridge of the ECV horizon, gazing at the holographic projection that detailed the aftermath. Her crew, a motley assortment of humans and their newfound allies, moved with the weary determination of those who had given their all. Voss turned to her first officer, Lieutenant Asha Patel, her voice steady despite the fatigue. "We did it, Asha. The sphere is ours." Asha nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and disbelief. And with it, the technology to power not just Earth, but potentially every human colony in the galaxy. "We've rewritten history today." Below them, on the newly captured Dyson sphere, teams of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, integrating human technology with the advanced alien systems. It was a dance of innovation and adaptation, one that would forever change the trajectory of human evolution. The sphere, once the weapon of a conquering force, had now become the beacon of human ingenuity and resilience. In the command center on Earth, President Marcus Kane addressed the world. His image broadcasted across every screen, a symbol of unity and hope. "Today, we stand not just as survivors, but as pioneers. The Dyson sphere will provide unlimited energy, fuel our dreams, and ensure that never again will humanity be at the mercy of another." On the battlefield, the alien remnants, now allies, began the long process of rebuilding. Their leader, Caethar, stood beside Voss, observing the harmony between human and alien efforts. "We underestimated your species, Captain," Caethar admitted, his tone a mixture of respect and wonder. "Your capacity for adaptation is unmatched." Voss smiled, a weary but genuine expression. "That's humanity for you. We don't know when to give up." As the dust settled, stories of bravery emerged. Samuel Ortiz, the engineer who had devised the plan that breached the sphere's defenses, was hailed as a hero. In the medbay, Dr. Alara Chen worked to save lives, her hands steady and her heart full, knowing that every life saved was a future brightened. Back on Earth, children played in the streets, their laughter a testament to a future secured by sacrifice. In orbit, the once feared Dyson sphere now gleamed with potential, a testament to humanity's newest chapter, a chapter not of war, but of endless possibilities. Years passed, and the sphere became a symbol of unity. A monument was erected on Earth, a simple inscription that read, "Here lies the courage to reach beyond." The legacy of the warriors, scientists, and dreamers who turned the tide against impossible odds. Humanity had not just survived, it had thrived. The Dyson sphere, a symbol of alien dominance, now powered the hopes and dreams of countless worlds. And in the heart of every human, the spark of possibility burned brighter than ever. "History will remember this day," Voss whispered, gazing at the stars, as the day humanity realized its true potential.